This is the plaintiff, Stacy Robertson. She says the defendant's dog attacked her dog, and he almost died due to an abscess in his neck from the injuries he sustained. The defendant's an insensitive man trying to get out of taking responsibility for his careless actions. But she's not going to allow him to get away without paying her what he owes. She's suing for $2,000 for all she's owed. This is the defendant, Damian Cruz. He says the plaintiff's dog bit his dog first, causing a 5-inch gap in his chest. His dog was just defending himself. The woman sent him a threatening letter demanding all this money, and he's ready for the judge to decide what's right. He's accused of losing control. The defendant has filed a countersuit for $500 for the plaintiff's hassling.
All parties, please raise your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case on the docket, the plaintiff says her dog nearly died because of an attack by another dog and dog owned by the defendant. The defendant says hogwash. The plaintiff's dog was the aggressor and he's the one who's owed. It's the case of dog attack.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome.
Okay, Ms. Robertson, you are suing Mr. Cruz for $2,000 in damages you say his dog did to your dog. Tell me what happened.
So on April 1st, I asked my boyfriend's nephew to take my dog Chop for a walk, which was normal. He goes for a walk about 4 times a week. And when he got home, he came to me and said that my dog had been attacked by a dog in the neighborhood. And at this time, I didn't know who it was.
What kind of dog do you have?
I have an American Bully.
How old?
About 4.5.
Okay.
And so my boyfriend and his nephew went to the house where the attack happened.
How old is the nephew?
He's 17 years old.
Okay. So go on.
Yes, and they spoke to him at his house, basically to ask if the dog had shots and everything like that, because we wanted to make sure our dog would be safe.
Now, I have a question for you. Do you know your neighbor, or you don't really know him?
I know him from, being in the neighborhood in the past. We've both lived out here for a long time.
All right, so go on.
Okay, so they spoke to him, asking him if his dog had the shots, and he said yes, but didn't have paperwork to show. So when they came home, basically we just let it go. I didn't call the police because my dog's injuries looked very minor at first.
What did it look like?
It just looked like a few scratches, honestly. A little bit of the skin broke, but not too much at first, on his neck and around his ears.
Okay.
So about 2 days after the attack happened, like I said, I didn't call the cops because I didn't think it was that bad at first. I didn't know to take my dog to the vet after a dog attack. He's the first dog that I've owned.
So what if anything, did you do at home? Actually, when did you finally take the dog to the vet?
I took him to the vet on April 6th, and the attack happened on April 1st.
Almost a week later. And why did you end up taking the dog to the vet? Because by that time, what?
He had progressively been swelling around the neck and the ear, like large masses of swelling. And at first, we did put peroxide and things on it to keep it from getting infected. So when we did finally take him to the vet, his neck was, could fit in the palm of my hand how big his neck was. And his ear was swollen shut as well.
How many times did you put peroxide?
I did it about 2 to 3 times before he ended up going to the vet.
Okay. Did you go on YouTube? I know that you say this is your first dog?
Yes.
Usually, when I sent my child off to college and I said, "Oh, you're so unprepared, you don't even know how to sew a button," her response to me was, "I know how to sew a button." How? You go on YouTube and you put in the words, "How do you sew a button?" Which is how my husband does home improvement in the house too. Did you at any point try to look up and research what it is that people should do if there is a dog bite besides immediately going to the vet?
Not immediately like I should have. I did wait a couple days before I did look anything up, so yeah.
All right, so what happened, Mr. Cruz? What kind of dog do you have?
I have a King Corso.
Okay.
King Corso mixed with a Razor Edge Pit.
Okay, so it's a pretty big dog, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Am I keeping you awake?
No.
Okay.
I worked 16 hours yesterday.
Okay. Did you get enough sleep?
No.
Okay. Can you tell me what happened? How'd your dog get loose?
Was doing some yard work in the backyard. I put my dog on the leash. I guess he seen they dog I stepped inside the house. I came back. I'm like, where'd my dog go? He was on his leash. And next thing I know, I heard, I guess her nephew, come get your dog, come get your dog. So when I ran to the front, that's when I seen him wrestling. And then my dog stopped when he realized that her dog wasn't playing anymore because he likes to play. And I have a security camera. I watched the video, but my DVR automatically sets to delete. So I
So
didn't
you
know I
didn't
needed the
save it?
video. I didn't know I was going to need it.
Well, I mean, there was a dog bite, and you had it all on video. You're not a
I mean,
particularly cautious person. One would
I
think
wasn't
that if you
too,
were going to save anything, that would be what you'd save.
I wasn't too worried about it because when I watched it, they wrestled, they stopped, and then her dog bit my dog in the neck. My dog then bit her dog back after the
I have a
incident.
question for you. Was her dog on a leash?
Yes, her dog was on a leash
And was your dog on a leash?
in the backyard until he popped his collar.
Until he wasn't, right? So
Correct.
let me explain to you what the law punishes. The law doesn't punish dogs. Dogs are dogs. They're animals. We all know they're going to behave as animals behave, okay?
Correct.
They don't have the nuance of knowing when another dog is playing or when it's. That's not. We don't sit there and slice and dice the dog's behavior and say you're the aggressor. What we do is we expect the adult humans to act like adults and make sure that their dogs are restrained from being able to hurt other people or dogs. That's the behavior that we punish. Okay. So the vet bills were $690.30. You're suing also for gas, a new collar, and pain and suffering. What happened to the old collar?
During the attack, the collar had a rip in the side of it, and by the time we got to the house and tried to take it off, the rest of the threads broke in half, so we had to get him a new one for after his surgery.
Do you have any proof of that?
Yes, I have the receipt.
No, anybody can buy a new collar. I'm asking if you have proof that during the attack the collar was broken. Like, do you have a picture of the broken collar?
No, I don't.
Okay. Do you have any of the witnesses who were actually present?
Yes, my nephew who was walking the dog, he's
Oh,
present.
let's hear from your nephew. I want to hear from your nephew.
Okay.
Hi.
Hi.
What's your name?
Rashawn Perry.
Perry. Mr. Perry, raise your right hand, please.
Do you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Perry, talk to me and tell me what happened that day.
I was taking Chop for a walk as usual, and at the end of the walk, Damien's dog came from his backyard and went straight for Chop's. He didn't have on a collar, so I don't know if he really broke off the leash or not. But after tussling with them, trying to get them two apart, Damien came out and helped me get them apart. He said if I needed help or if the cuts got worse to come back, I said okay.
And then did you ever witness any discussions between Stacy and him regarding the injuries later or no?
No.
All right. How bad did it look at that time?
At that time, it didn't look that bad. It just looked like a few scratches, nothing major.
Okay. And do you live in the house?
Yes, I do.
So did you see the injury get progressively worse?
Yes, I did.
All right. Okay, you can switch back with her. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, pull up the seat. Is this one of those lampshades they put on the dogs so that they can't lick their wounds?
Yes, ma'am.
There's no dignity in that.
No, it was very hard for a few weeks for him to get around.
Oh, poor thing. How did your dog fare in this, Mr. Cruz?
He got a 5-inch gash on his chest, which I treated myself.
How did you treat it?
Peroxide and Neosporin.
How often did you put peroxide?
I cleaned it 3 times a day.
Yeah. Wow, that is some swelling. So what did they end up doing for your dog at the vet, Miss Robertson?
They actually had to make incisions on his neck
To
on
drain
the side.
it? Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. One on the side and one on the back.
Uh-huh.
And then after the surgery, we had to go back for 2 post-op cleanings after it happened, and then a final checkup to make sure everything healed properly.
Do you have any proof of $55 of gas?
I don't have
Okay.
receipts or anything.
We talked
but-
about the collar and then the pain and suffering. Talk to me about pain and suffering.
So basically, they pretty much told me at the vet, if I didn't get the surgery done that day, that there was a very strong possibility he would pass away within the short amount of time between that day and tomorrow, when I would have told him I could have the money together. So when they told me that, I was a mess. You know, I'm driving home crying. I'm a wreck. I go home to basically type a letter up to Damien, you know, asking him just for a little bit of help. I wrote a very cordial letter in hopes that he would just get back to me on an adult level and say, hey, I know this happened. I can help you out with this. But he called the police on me.
What happened there, Mr. Cruz?
She left a letter in my mailbox stating that she wanted $700 for the vet bill, which I was cool just paying giving them $200 for the wound care, because the wound care was $175.
Right, the wound care was $175, but everything else that was in there, what if that wasn't? Hold on, let me talk. What if that wasn't a direct result of the bite?
I mean, his shots, he should already had his rabies shots and everything. I don't see me having to pay for his shots.
How old was the dog?
He's 4.5. We've had him for about a year and a half.
And he'd never had a rabies shot?
The person that had him before us wasn't a very good caretaker. And when we did get him, we kind of just took him to be good people, and we weren't very financially stable.
Okay. So I get why you don't want to pay the rabies shot, but everything else that I see there, like our drugs for pain and all that other stuff, why wouldn't you be responsible for that?
I didn't pay those any attention. I just look at the wound care.
Okay, so let me ask you a question. Well, the rest of them have to do with the wound care. There's not one entry just for wound care. Can I ask you, why did you call the police when she came to your door?
I didn't call the police when she came to my door. I was at work. I came home. There was a letter in my mailbox. It said she was going to call the police, but the reason she didn't call the police was because it was Father's Day weekend, and she didn't want them to take my dog. That's the reason why she didn't call the police.
Okay, so did you call the police?
I called an emergency number to ask him a question about the letter, and that's when the officer told me, like, there's nothing she can do because she didn't call the police the day of the incident, but she can take me to small claims court. And I said, okay. Because I ain't know anything, what to do with anybody else to ask.
How did you know that he had called the police?
The cop showed up at my door. He was very nice, basically just told me that he called to report that I was harassing him by leaving the letter at his door.
Okay.
And I did just want to mention, he never did get in contact with me to offer any kind of money. He said $200, but that was never brought to my attention. All the cop said is that he said if I want to do anything about it, I'll have to take him to court.
And in fact, Mr. Cruz, you have a counterclaim against her for $500 for hassle. Tell me about that.
Correct. Just stress and just having to take off work for this.
Really?
If she would have came in.
And whose fault is that?
Not mine.
Not yours?
No.
Well, who didn't secure their dog?
My dog was secured.
No.
His collar
By
broke.
Definition, if he busts out of the collar, that wasn't that secure. Secure means they don't bust out of the collar. If that's even true. For all I know, your dog just roams. And
okay.
The dog wasn't. But let's assume he was on a collar, on a backyard leash. What is a backyard leash?
I don't know. It's like 20 feet long.
And it's attached to what?
A tree.
And is it a chain or a rope?
Braided rope leash.
Okay. And so is it attached to a regular collar?
Yeah, it's a collar that he wears every day.
Okay. And so if it's a collar that he wears every day, why isn't it tight enough where he can't slip out of it, like you said?
Because it's not big enough. It's an extra large collar.
Then I guess you bought the wrong collar and it is your fault. Whose fault is it if not yours? Right. Your dog got loose. That's your fault.
No words. I have no words
Just
for you.
no words.
None.
No words. But actions.
Actions. Lots of actions.
Actions.
Yeah.
I'm looking at this and I'm saying to myself, well, how much of this is maybe Ms. Robertson's fault because she didn't treat the wounds the way a person should treat the wounds? I mean, 2 or 3 times before I brought him to the vet is not right. It's 2 or 3 times a day that you should do that. But the more Mr. Cruz yawns and complains about the hassle it is that his dog got loose and started this, the more I think that the proximate cause of Ms. Robertson's dog's hassle is Mr. Cruz, in fact, because it's really a judgment call for the judge. Right. And so I'm sitting here trying to figure out, do you think this is just one of those things, or does Mr. Cruz just not care? On your counterclaim against Ms. Robertson, 0, because the hassle is your fault. And on Ms. Robertson's claim against you, I'm going to order you to pay the entire vet bill, $690.30, because I really, really think that you need to get the message that your dog can't run loose and that hassle is your fault. Because, she's sitting there trying to save you money, which you need to know you should never, ever do. And take the dog to the vet sooner.
$200.
No, you're gonna. I don't think you're picking up what I'm putting down, Cruz. You're gonna pay her $690.30. Verdict for the plaintiff.
Ooh, have a good day.
So the plaintiff is going to get $690 from the defendant, whether he likes it or not. Mr. Cruz, you wake up enough to hear what the judge just told you? You have a judgment against you for $690.
Ooh, no,
You okay?
Fine. Yeah, I don't care.
Okay, very good. So long, pal. Ms. Robertson, let's hope you don't run into that guy again. Stay away from his house when your nephew's walking the dog, right? Good idea?
Yes, sir.
You okay with that? You didn't get a lot of pain and suffering, but you are getting the vet bill paid. How do you feel about that?
I'm satisfied with that. It's something I feel like he should have to do and be obligated to do, so I'm okay with that.
By the way, how is your dog now? I mean, the gap looked real. That gash in his neck really looked very, very bad. How is he doing now?
He has made a full recovery. His fur has started to grow back, and he's becoming his old self again.
Good for you. All right, Harvey?
Well, Doug, it's clear the collar wasn't properly fitted, and if you don't have full control of the dog, that is a violation of the leash law. And in cases like this, the leash law rules.
Hey, judges, which takes priority? Attorney-client privilege or being an officer of the court?
Those are both kind of sacred issues in the legal profession. Being an officer of the court just means you have to have complete honesty and integrity before the court. You don't mislead them or fail to inform them of things
Or deceive them.
Things like that. So occasionally those can kind of come into conflict because let's say a lawyer knows that his client is going to commit perjury at a trial. Beyond any doubt, the guy's going to commit perjury. Well, the first thing you would try to do is talk your client out of it. The second thing you would do is withdraw from the case and just say, I'm out. And say I'm not representing.
Without disclosing why.
Right.
Without burning the client.
Now you haven't violated the attorney-client privilege, but you're on your way and you don't want anything to do with it. Now, the other difficult circumstance is where a lawyer finds out either during trial or right after that the client did commit perjury beyond all possible doubt. He or she knows it. I would say in that circumstance, you have an obligation first as an officer of the court to disclose it to the tribunal so that the judge knows exactly what is going on and how it's going on. It's going to blow up your representation with your client perhaps, but that's your first obligation. And the bar rules, I think in all 50 states would say the same thing, that that's going to trump that moment of attorney-client privilege. But you think about attorney-client privilege, if you violate it, you're violating a really important principle, and the State Bar Association is probably going to have something to say about it. You might be in big trouble with them. But if you violate your oath as an officer of the court, you're going to have a big problem with the judge.
And the bar.
And the bar, probably, afterwards.